All right. Do we have our shit together?
I think so.
All right. What's up? Welcome back to the What Do You Mean podcast. I'm Monica.
And I'm Ty.
And we're talking about some fun stuff today.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of fun, but...
I think it's super fun.
Why are your toes like that?
Don't worry about it. This is why I hate feet, is because my feet are always doing something crazy. And other people's feet are just gross. Because maybe they're doing something crazy and I don't know about it. It's the unknown. That's why feet are gross.
The unknown of feet is what makes them terrifying.
It is, because you don't know what the hell they're doing with their feet. Maybe they're disgusting.
Same could be said for hands, okay? And honestly, I'm more scared of those. Because people...
That's fair. I never said my fear of feet was rational.
Yeah, that's true. It is a pretty irrational fear of feet.
I'm well aware of it, too.
Anyway, we're talking about money today. So...
Money is very fun for me.
And it's kind of hilarious that we're talking about this because I feel like we've spent a lot of money in the past few days, but...
That is true.
But it's Christmas, all right? We'll get into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Christmas time. It's a more expensive time of year, but we wanted to talk about, well, what exactly are we talking about?
I think for us, like, I don't hear people in their 20s talk enough about finances and money and, like, how to do it well. Not saying that we have all the answers, but I think we do fine with it. And I think we have worked hard to, like, kind of figure out what our goals are and, like, how we want to handle it. And we just know what works for us as a couple. And money is a really stressful topic for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like keeping the conversation about money open for people in their 20s is a really good idea.
And I feel like you don't often hear a lot of people come at a money conversation from like a more average perspective. Like, yeah, for us, we're not like millionaires over here, but I feel like we're living comfortably, are able to have fun, are still able to set aside money to work towards goals. And I feel like in your 20s, that's really all you can ask for.
Totally.
Like, there are people around our age that do make more money than us, that are more well off financially. That's just not the case for us. But I don't feel like by any means we are struggling.
For sure.
So I think that's kind of the way we wanted to approach this. I don't know, because I feel like whenever I listen to things about money or like managing your money, I'm always like, okay, this is already unattainable for me because they're telling me to save like $5 trillion a month. I don't even make... You know what I mean? So like, yes. I feel like just having a conversation that feels more relatable, hopefully will help anybody out there who needs a little encouragement on their financial journey.
Yeah. I think one of the main things for me is I've always been very aware of money, which we'll get into in a minute. But when I got my first like consistent job, I started getting very interested in finances and like investing and saving and what all of that looks like as an adult, because I hadn't had a job that made sense for that. And one of the first things is, like you're saying, I realized all these people talking about it are super rich.
Yeah.
They all have a ton of money and they're like, I invest $1,000 a day. And I'm like, that's so not attainable for me.
Like at this moment in time.
Right. Like ideally we'd get to that point where investing $1,000 every day makes sense and is doable, but that's super not our thing right now.
Yeah. And that's not to say like you shouldn't be listening to those people. Obviously, like take advice from rich people because they clearly are doing something right.
They're doing something very
right. But I feel like it's hard to like even figure out where to start when you're taking advice from somebody that's like miles and miles away from where you are financially. So it's just like hard to find a starting place. And so really this is not an episode to be like, here's your get rich tips, because we
definitely not
don't have those for you.
Yeah, we are not rich. Like this isn't even advice as much as like a conversation about what we do.
Yeah. And like our relationship with money, how we've both approached money personally and in our relationship.
And then at the end, we'll share a couple like resources, because honestly, like there's so much good information out there, but it's really overwhelming to get into and to like start finding people to listen to, people to learn from.
Okay, well, let's just start and kind of give a little bit of a background on how we both feel about money or how we kind of grew up thinking about money, because I feel like that
it shapes a lot. It
sets you up like for the rest of your life, how you're going to view money. Like,
it really does.
I think, because I know like I can remember how I felt about money when I was like 6. And it's pretty similar to how I feel about it now. Yeah. And just like the environment you grew up in. And
I think it's totally something you can change, but you have to be aware of how you currently feel about it or how you felt about it in the past.
Yeah. It's like, it's actually like legitimately like any other relationship.
Yeah.
Because it is something that you have to like work at.
Absolutely.
And be very like conscious of. But
very
just
introspective
like,
of as well.
But just like romantic relationships and friendships and stuff, like so many of the traits that you learn and like the ways that you handle relationships stem from your childhood and like
totally
how you were brought up.
100%.
Anywho, so
you want to start us off, my love?
Sure. We made a new rule where we're not allowed to tell each other sure. So I felt weird saying that just now.
You owe me $1.
Sorry. Okay. I feel like ever since I was a kid, I've been we've talked about this before. I feel like I am a very empathetic person. And so from a very young age, I feel like I've been very aware of the fact that like money is important and money doesn't just like come to you, and that my parents bought me everything that I had. And so I think a lot of the time growing up, I was like a big saver growing up, like all my money from birthdays and stuff. I saved it. I had so much money at like 10 years old. I remember my grandma gave me like $100 one year for my birthday. And she was like, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, I'm going to save it. And she was like, for what? It's like, that's not fun. You're a kid. Like buy something that you want. But like I had like a stockpile of just cash from like all my birthdays and stuff. And I don't even know what I thought I was going to do with it, because I didn't know about saving really. Like I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that like things cost money, and in the grand scheme, $100 isn't a lot of money. Like I don't know how I had that thinking at the ripe age of 6 to 10 years old, but like I did. And I feel like for the most part, my parents have been pretty smart with money. I can't think of a time that I ever like didn't have what I needed or felt like super comfortable. And like they were very much the parents where like they didn't talk about how much money we had, but they never made us feel like, even if they were struggling, like we didn't really know about it that much.
Yeah.
I can think of like one time period, probably in like 2008 when the stock market crashed or whatever. I know nothing about that still. I just know that it worked out, but I do remember there being a little bit more stress around finances at that point. But I've always known that like my dad has his own business. They have a lot of investment properties. They do like all these smart things with their money. And so like, I think I just like being around that, I just like thought it would be a good idea for me to be saving money at a young age. But I also feel like, and this, I don't tie this to like anything that my parents did or anything about my upbringing. I think it just has to do with like the way I am as a person. But like, I feel like I've always felt a little bit of like guilt around money. Like I had a hard time growing up when my parents would pay for things for me, because I would just feel like guilty, like you're spending too much. Or like
you're talking like high school age?
Yeah, high school. Or yeah, probably more high school. And honestly, a little bit now, like even when it came to like the wedding and stuff, like just feeling guilt or like I don't want to be indebted to anybody, even though it's like, especially with your parents, they're not ever going to make you feel that way, hopefully. Totally. So it's not even like, I don't know, but I just think like I've had a weird guilt at points in my life when it comes to money. And so I think part of the reason I want to be financially secure is so that I don't have to feel that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want other people to feel like they have to take care of me, which could be something that like I could work on, because I'm sure that's not the most healthy thing. But at the same time, I know the weight that money holds on so many people, especially if you don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to like make my financial decisions for myself and not have to put that weight on anybody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so interesting hearing that side of it, because like
I don't think we've ever really talked about it before, like in depth.
Not
like
in
this.
depth, no. I think we've talked a fair bit about money, at least once a week for the past year and a half or two. It's just been a very, like, getting married is really expensive. Like, that was a full conversation for us.
Yeah.
Over months. And like, there's just a lot of different things that we have to talk about money still and constantly as a young married couple. So it's interesting to hear that, because those, like you're saying about it influencing how you still currently view money. Like, I know you're still a saver. You're still like, I made X amount and I'm going to save this much. Like, you don't like seeing it a certain account under a certain amount, you know, like there's things like that, and a lot of people are like that, but you get stressed out about certain things. Even if we still have money coming in, you still get stressed about it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a plan for that money, you're just like, I don't want to see it below X amount of money.
Which I will say, I think that's something that, like, honestly, through therapy in the last year, that's been like a talk, like something that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Is just like the relationship that you have with money and not having a scarcity mindset with it, and like knowing that money will always come to you. So that's like something I'm trying to work on, and being less like, I don't ever want to be stressed about it. I want to be like aware of it, but not stressed. Like, when I see it go down, I know that like it's going to come back because I plan for it and I have a purpose for all the money that I do spend. So it's not like a scary thing, but it's like natural to be scared when you see money going down in your account or whatever. Like,
well, it's the human condition where chemicals literally go off in your brain when you give something away, or when you pass something out of you, when you lose something. Yeah. So that makes sense. It's funny because I think we had a different experience with money as kids.
But similar views on it personally.
But it resulted in similar views.
Yeah.
My parents owned their own business, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And my dad will tell you, like, he's not a great admin person. So business was really hard, and like owning his own business, like he's great at his job, but running the like business side of things was really hard for him. And it's like still really hard for him. He like outsources it and stuff now, I think. And, but it's like hard for him to like be in both worlds. And being a small business, that was kind of what he was stuck with, was being both the person on the ground doing the work and also running the business and having goals for the business. And, and then with the economic state of our childhood, which was never great, we did not have tons of money growing up. Like, we were at different times, we had different experiences with it, but like we ended up having to move a bunch, especially with the crash in 2008, and my parents had 4 kids. Like, I was just very aware of money and how we were doing as a family, financially speaking, just because of all of those factors. And I was the third kid. Like, it's funny talking with my siblings now. We were home in September, and I was talking with my oldest sister, and she had a very different perspective on how much money we had as a family. Like, she was not aware that we had less than we did. And I was very aware that we had as much as we did. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I probably still...
I wonder what that is, like why that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could just be like the different personalities that you guys have. Like, maybe you just had more of a sense of like...
I think it could also be that like it didn't affect her as much because she was in high school.
Yeah.
When things started getting harder. Like, I think we were probably fine through her like younger childhood. And then things got harder for her, and she was in high school and like had a job and was, you know, doing her own thing. Like, she didn't really care what was going on. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was in like late elementary school by that time, and then like going into high school. And so like things were hard and stayed hard for a long time for my parents, I think. And so for me, that resulted in like, I don't know, just like not having the same thing. Like, I didn't have a new car when all of my friends got a brand new car when they turned 16, you know, like things like that. Like, we went to a high school that had a lot of money, I think, like a lot of the families did. Yeah. And I was very aware that I did not have as much money as them. And so it's interesting because then I went and lived off of like donations for 3 years. And so that also added for mission work. Yeah. Because when I was working in Australia and Hawaii, I didn't have a salary or anything, or like even an hourly type job. Like it was all donated by people, and I had to raise all of that myself. So that affected my outlook on money as well.
Yeah. Because it just like never came easy.
Yeah. It was never easy to have money. I had to work really hard to have very little money at that time. And so I think just all of those things, like it meant as soon as I got my big boy job a year and a half ago, I was looking at, you know, YouTubers and podcasts and things about like, what should I do with this? Because this is a consistent income and I don't know how to do that. But at the same time, like I was always aware of a budget. My parents had a budget my whole upbringing. We listened to Dave Ramsey in the car on the way to and from the swimming pool every day in the summertime. Like there were weird things like that I was just very aware of money and like good habits and what they were, even though we didn't have the money. Or I guess my parents did, but I didn't. Like I was 14. Like what was I going to do with listening to Dave Ramsey? But it was good for me to learn some of that stuff and be aware of that stuff at that age.
Yeah.
Whereas I think some people hit like 22 and they're out of college and their parents are like, okay, good job. And they like don't have any idea what to do. Mm-hmm. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Like I would be so scared. So like, I guess that being said, like my outlook on money isn't negative by any means. And I don't think I necessarily have a scarcity mindset. I sometimes do. I have weird things for sure.
Yeah.
But I am very like, be smart with your money. That's my thing. And it's just because like it always took work and I was always around thinking about your money as you got it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, like hearing the ways that we both have viewed money growing up. And like, it makes so much sense how we brought both of those mentalities into our marriage, because I think the biggest leading cause of divorce or whatever is like money. And yeah. I definitely get that, because like we don't really fight ever. The closest we've ever got to fighting is about money.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not even like it's like a fight. It's just like uncomfy, and it brings up a lot of like fears and like inner.
Yes. It's always based on how we feel because of how we're using our money or how our money isn't being used. Like,
yeah. It makes you feel very vulnerable, like to have to talk about like your spending habits, or like going from being single and being able to do with my money what I wanted. I didn't just spend it willy-nilly, but I had like my own processes in place in my head of how I would spend money. I had my own budget in my head of like how it all worked out. So having to like openly talk about that and like adjust and compromise in a relationship is so weird. And it has felt very vulnerable and scary at many points.
I would say it's the most vulnerable and scary thing that we have had to do.
Yeah, because it's like,
at least.
It uncovers a lot about like who you are, is like your fears that are rooted in like.
A lot of the time it feels like I'm being really vulnerable about something, but you don't see it the same way. And so then it's
because what's vulnerable to you isn't to me.
It's not to you. And then I think you have the same thing. And then we both are like annoyed or frustrated with the other person because we're basically like, hey, don't spend money on that.
And it's almost like you feel like your choices and your like, like certain things about you are being judged because the other person doesn't understand necessarily why
because
you would spend money on things that you spend money on, or why certain areas of a budget are more important to you than others.
Totally.
Because like everybody has their own like views and like what's most important to them, which is another thing we'll get into when we go more into like budgeting and stuff. But like, yeah, it's weird.
It's
like
a very scary thing to do.
Yeah.
To talk about money so like open and honestly with each other and like agree on everything. And it's something I think is so necessary for us given our financial situation at the moment, like how much we make and how we live. It just is necessary for us. Mm-hmm. I don't know that that's the case for every couple. And I think every couple has to figure that out.
Yeah.
But, like if we were both making like, I don't know, like $250,000 a year, we could probably just do whatever we wanted and not have to worry about it you know,
right? But like as much,
like we'd have to be like, okay, like, did we pay rent? Did we do the things that we need to do together? And then we each get our own thing and whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not our situation. And so we have to be like very open and honest with each other about what we want and what we need.
I also will say, like, we're talking a lot about budgeting within a relationship, but I think, like, obviously for people that are not in one, I think it's like just as important to be thinking about, because having some sort of like mentality around money in place before, even if you don't plan on ever being with anybody, but just so that you can feel in control of your finances and not have that stress weighing on you. I mean, maybe some people have so much money that it's not stressful, and that's great. But I feel like for most people in their 20s that live around where we live, we're all kind of in the same boat. We're like, we're not struggling,
starving, but we're also,
but we're also like, we'd love to be continuing to move up. And like, if you want to do that, I feel like you have to plan ahead. And so like,
you have to be aware of how much you have and how much you would like to have and how you're going to get there. Basically.
Honestly, I think it's a little easier in a sense when you are single, because you don't really have to consult another person who
it's so much easier
deals with money with you. But if you are in a relationship,
random like savings or investing decisions just like on a whim,
right? Like,
I didn't have to answer to anyone. And now it's like, hey, I want to invest X amount, and you're like, okay, don't.
Or like, why? Like,
or why? Like, can you justify why that's a good choice for us or for that money?
Right.
So yeah, it's a whole different thing.
So our biggest thing now, like, this was a conversation before we even got married. This was a conversation when we were still dating. I feel like we've been very open about money with each other from the very beginning. Like, we've always been pretty aware of each other's financial situations. We were never uncomfortable talking about like how much money we made, or like what we were spending money on, or like if we were going on dates too much and we were like, maybe we should cut back a little, because
because
like that was never really weird for us, I don't think.
It wasn't. It was something that we established pretty early on, and we were in very different income things at the time. I mean, we both weren't making much. But like, I was a barista and a freelancer, which is its own difficulty, and you had your first job out of college. So like, we were just in a little bit different spots and like figuring that out anyways. So it wasn't a big deal to like add in that conversation.
Right.
When we started dating.
And then when we were engaged and talking about like, you know, how we were going to start integrating our lives. We did premarital counseling just to kind of set us up for success. And like, one of the big things that you talk about in there is budget. And I feel like, honestly, that was probably my biggest takeaway
same.
From our counseling sessions, because like, I do feel like overall we have a very healthy relationship. I feel like the one place that like everybody could use a little bit more guidance is with money and like budgeting. And because like, I always like to know, because I knew how I liked to budget, but I always like to know how other people do it. And our therapist had like really great insight on how to like start a budget, how to prioritize like percentages of your money. We've tweaked it a little bit to what works for us, but like, a budget in general is something we've stuck to from day one. And I think that's been like the most helpful thing that we could have done, because I cannot imagine how overwhelmed I would be if I didn't know where our money was going.
Because I think you were more meticulous about budgeting before we got married than I was. I had a budget, but it wasn't nearly as complex as ours is currently.
There's probably a much easier way to do it, but I feel like just starting out, it's actually been pretty helpful that we are so specific with it.
I agree.
So that we can see exactly what
I think because we are committed to using it, it works. If we weren't committed to using it and we only added to it like once a month or when we remembered or whatever, I don't think it would work, but we do it very consistently, and so it works really well for us. And it's not too hard to do. It's
not. So we do, per our therapist's suggestion, we do family meetings every Sunday, and sometimes we miss, or sometimes we do it a little bit later, but we always have it in our mind that like once a week we're going to sit down and do our family meeting. And there's like a few different areas that we discuss in the family meeting, but one of them is budget. And so we once a week will sit down together with our computers and do our budget. And then after we do it, we kind of talk about like, okay, how are we feeling? Like now that we're seeing everything in there and seeing everything that was spent and like how the categories are filling up at this point in the month, how are we feeling? What can we adjust? Yada, yada. And I feel like that, like for me anyway, as somebody who is prone to getting very stressed about money, that keeps me feeling like very in control and calm.
And when we don't do it, like say we miss a week, which has happened, you get progressively more stressed out throughout the week.
And I'll end up doing it
by the time
midweek.
we hit like Thursday or Friday, you tell me every day.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to do our budget. We need to do our budget. Hey, are we out of money? We need to do our budget. You know, like it's hilarious because if we miss our family meeting on Sunday, you might bring it up on like Monday or Tuesday, right? And you're like, oh, we missed our family meeting. And that's always where it starts. And I'm like, damn, you're right. We should do that. And then we get busy, as we do. And like Wednesday goes by, nothing. Thursday, you probably say something. Friday night comes along, and we normally go out to eat on a Friday night. You definitely say something. By Saturday, you say it at least twice. And then Sunday we do it, and you go, I love doing our budget.
Yeah, and it's always like after we do it, I'm like, oh my God, we have so much more money than I thought. Like, I just like, I need that reassurance. And it's like, I don't really need it because at the end of the day, like, I trust myself and I trust us that we have our budget in place so we know, like, we don't spend money without knowing where it's coming from, how we'll get it back. Like, it's not anything to be worried about, but I think there's just a part of me that is anxious and I just assume the worst of my situation at all times. Yeah. And so once we do our budget and I like know exactly where we are, I feel so much better. And it makes me just feel so much more like clear going into the week and like knowing like, okay, we're on track. We're not poor. Like, it feels good. And because I've always been this way, I can't really speak to not being this way, but it feels so good to feel like you're the one in charge when it comes to money.
And that was a big thing that they brought up in our premarital counseling. It was,
it's like,
that's
not
also the big Dave Ramsey thing is like, if you aren't in control of your money,
your money's going to control you.
Your money is going to control you. And so
it'll literally take over your life.
Yeah. Because if you get out of, like, if you start throwing everything on a credit card and you don't have the money to pay for it, you're going to be
stress me out.
Stuck. Yeah. You're going to be stuck in a boatload of credit card debt, you know, like things like that. If you're just buying stuff with money you don't have, you end up kind of screwing yourself over most of the time. So it just is like, if you know where your finances are at, where, like, what category your purchase is coming out of and you're spending less than you make, like, you're going to be on top of it and you're going to be setting yourself up for financial success. Yeah. Which is dope.
Let's give like a very brief, like just a sort of synopsis of what our budget looks like. Just because like, if there are people listening to this who have never done a budget at all and you're like, what do I budget? Like, I know there's so many ways to do it. And so like, I don't know what the popular thing is. We might do it completely weird, but like the way we do it works for us. So like, let's just go over kind of like some of the categories that we have and how we go about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think generally our budget is what a lot of people recommend you do for a budget. I would also say like go look up what other people do, way more successful people than us.
The only reason I say that like ours might be a little different is because I can't function on percentages. I have to do exact dollar amounts for my categories. I can't do it based on percentages because I'm like, well, that is true. That doesn't. I don't feel like I can be as specific with a percentage as I can with like exact dollar amounts on each thing.
Right. So basically what we've done is I created everything based on percentages and then rounded.
Like, I did this for us.
It is funny though, because like
how I set us up for success.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
You literally used my template from before we were married.
I did.
Let us not forget. My spreadsheet template.
I know. Let us not forget that I agreed to use that because I knew that it would make the most sense to you, and I was a little more adaptable.
Okay, yeah, I'll admit that.
Also, didn't I help you set up your spreadsheet?
No, okay, let's not go there. He just helped me with, I didn't know how to set up like little
Formulas.
Yeah, I didn't know how to set up formulas.
Yeah.
I had no idea the wonderful world of spreadsheets before.
There's a girl on TikTok that her whole thing, she has millions of followers and her whole thing is teaching people how to use Excel.
It's crazy.
It's bonkers.
I didn't know. I legitimately thought, like, when I was younger, I was like, it's just a weird grid. What are you doing with that? The possibilities are endless.
Literally
insane.
Endless. Yeah. It's insane.
We just use Google Sheets. So nothing crazy.
Sorry, I keep saying Excel, but yes, it's Google Sheets. Basically, I set up all of our stuff based on the percentages that our therapist gave us. And then we rounded them to dollar amounts that we agreed on.
Let's say what the percentages are.
Great. Grab our paper that
we have knockoff.
I like that we don't even look at it anymore, though. We know what it is.
So basically, the rough outline our therapist gave us that we've tweaked to fit our lifestyle is expenses. So like rent, food, insurance, basically the things that you definitely have to pay for every month.
Yeah, like you can't live without those
Right,
things.
like you have to be able to pay for those things in order to live. That makes up 60% of the budget. And then this next one is variable. I don't even fully know. The things that we wrote down here are debt, emergency, investing, and long-term. So that would be 20%. So is that just like saving, basically?
Yeah, it's kind of saving.
Paying off
and
debt,
like,
emergency stuff. So
it's stuff that it's basically everything that's not an expense or the other category.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there's that one. And then fun is 10%. Adventures is 10%. And the difference there that she gave us, I think adventures is more like if you're setting aside money to go on a vacation or something like that. So
traveling. It can be like, I think it's primarily for traveling but like for us, I kind of count like our dating category as that because
I would think that's more fun.
It is fun.
These are conversations that we have all the time when we're putting our budget together, is like determining what's technically considered fun. So that's why we've kind of made our own categories that work for us, but based on this general idea of a budget.
Because the lines get really blurry sometimes where like adventures are for traveling and like, but they're also experiences and things like that. Whereas like fun, this is where I would make the distinction. Fun is for us personally, and then dating is probably like our fun thing together. But because we don't travel a ton yet,
right?
We go do experiences in town. Like we go to a fancy restaurant or we go get coffee together, like things like that.
Yeah. So
this is getting into us budgeting on the podcast, which is not the goal. But
I know. Like, should we do our budget right now?
Yeah, should we?
I'm getting stressed.
Should we hop in?
No. But we basically, I need to have things a little bit more specific in order to feel organized. So we have a lot of categories.
We do.
But our categories are basically subcategories of all of these, of the four.
Well,
things.
even like you said, like expenses is rent and insurance. And so we would just make a category for like our rent and our insurance and anything that revolves around a car. Like we would go through and list all of those and put down how much we spend on that or how much we allot to spend on it.
Right. And we set aside fun budgets for both of us, like our individual fun money, so that I can buy clothes or whatever the heck I want with mine, and he can pay for all of his weird film tech stuff and subscriptions and investing in Bitcoin.
Yep. Basically, anything that I find fun, I don't have to ask her about it.
Yeah,
and
like
she doesn't have to ask me about can she put in an H&M order. Because that's fun. I did put in one
last week and I didn't ask you about it. So that was a great example.
You always tell me about it.
I do.
You go, I ordered clothes. And I go, I ordered a lens. And we both can be very excited for each other and not be stressed about, you didn't consult me on that. And where is that coming from? You know, because I trust you to not go outside of your allotted fund money.
Sometimes that trust is
it's a little broken, but
I'm sorry. Honestly, no, you've never overspent.
Yeah. I overspend in other things sometimes though.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just like carry that. I like carry the 10, carry the 1.
Carry the 2.
You know?
No, so that leads into another good point. Probably like the biggest budgeting tip we could actually give is to budget for less than what you actually make. So even if we are quote unquote over budget on paper, we still have a good amount of wiggle room to where like we are actually still saving, but we have like a goal in mind so that we can have a buildup of money without really having to think about it because we're just sticking to our budget.
Totally. So I think Dave Ramsey, for instance, would say something different where he would say like budget for every single penny that comes in to your account. But what they tend to say after that is like budget for your savings, which we also do.
Right.
But because our incomes kind of vary sometimes, like it doesn't quite make sense. But we just we do budget for a little bit less, and we also set aside like we are going to move this much into savings. Or if we don't, it's because we spent money that was supposed to go in that. Or, whatever.
I want to say like, I think like this is all kind of saying the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
Just like save. Essentially. But like, I also think it's important to like know yourself because like for me, if we were budgeting down to the cent, I would be stressed. And just because I'm like, we have no wiggle room. Like so I'd rather just pretend that the money's not even there because like, it's never going to be a bad thing if you have an extra $1,000 in your account at the end of the month that you didn't spend. And then at that point you save it. Like
totally.
To me, like it feels better to think I'm overspending when I'm actually severely underspending.
Right. And I think that
I want to be that disciplined to think that like, no, this is all the money I have.
Right.
So.
Which, basically I think if Dave Ramsey were to look at our budget, he'd be like, okay, so you didn't spend all of this money. Why don't you just put it on your savings budget every month?
Like, Dave, can you chime in, please?
Dave, spam the chat,
please. Was he correct here?
I mean, I haven't listened to Dave Ramsey in 15 years, but
Dave is like, cool.
He's like, that is not correct. But like, I think it works for us how we budget. And the moral of this whole episode is like, do some research and figure out what works for you and become rich. That's our goals.
Die trying.
But I think that works really well for us and we're conscious of it.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I feel like
money every month. So it works.
At the end of the day, I feel like my biggest things are talk about it a lot, whether that's like with your partner or just like
with your friends.
Yourself.
Yeah. Like, with yourself.
Like, and I don't mean like have a conversation with you. Just be like thinking about it. Be like looking at your personal budget. Just like don't neglect it is the thing. Like, cause you should always stay aware of it so that you can be the one in charge of it.
Yeah.
And also just like the making sure you're always saving because that is huge to make sure that you can like actually get ahead and not just like coast, you know?
Yeah. And for that, having goals is really important.
Yeah.
Like one of the things, and most financial advisors, I think, would tell you this. We've recently met with a financial advisor. That's a great decision if you're at a point where that makes sense for you. Highly recommend. But also our therapist told us this, like have a goal of saving 3 to 6 months expenses as a emergency budget. Like that should be an emergency savings for when shit hits the fan and you lose your job and everything else and have to move across the country all at the same time. That sounded like a horrible
And your
scenario.
dog dies.
Wow. And Nana died and she took money with her.
Yeah. She didn't give it out. She took it to the grave.
In her will, you have to give her 20%.
Me when I die.
Honestly,
I actually died trying to get rich and then I got rich when I was dead.
Straight up. Isn't that what the like pharaohs did? I feel like the mummies are all like kings. They all more like die off worth. Kings. Jeez. Anyways, wow.
I'm screaming.
That's a big one for us. Like that was our goal when we first got married was, okay, what are our expenses? We need to save up 3 to 6 months of that. And we've been working towards that ever since. We're mostly there, I think.
Not to flex, but
well, unfortunately,
about 25% of the way.
I think we thought we were there, and then we met with our financial advisor, and I think he told us to have 6 to 12 months, and we were like, damn it.
Yeah, no, we thought we were there. And then he was like, yeah, you'll want to have about like double that. And we're like, dope.
We're like, awesome. That took us 8 months. So,
but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
It'll be great.
But all that to say, like, I think having a savings goal is a great idea.
And some sort of mentor or somebody that you can like, whether that's like your parents who are really good with money, your friends who are really good with money, YouTube, a financial advisor. I think all of that is
if
great.
You can have multiple mentors and you're reading books and watching YouTube videos and talking to multiple people about how they do their finances, just be well-rounded. Like, that's a good idea always.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
So along with that, I don't know. I just felt like it was really hard to find resources on stuff at first because it's like such a daunting thing. So I wanted to just like kind of give a couple things of like where I started. Not even where I started, because I started watching investing YouTubers that I couldn't even tell you their names because I found other ones that I really like and have latched onto. But my biggest thing, I always watch YouTube videos. It's how I learned my profession. It's how I learned pretty much everything since I didn't go to college. So I watch way too much YouTube. I would say go, and if you're getting into like investing in particular, go watch Andre Jick. We'll put links to all of this in the description, but I would say go watch Andre Jick. He's really good about teaching and explaining what is going on in the finance realm. So he explains like what the stock market is and how it works and why things are crashing, why things are rising, why inflation is in existence, why it's good, why it's bad, like all of that stuff. He just gives really good videos to teach, but he also shares what he does. He is one of those people that like, he's really successful now because has millions of subscribers on YouTube and also had a full career and all kinds of other stuff. So he's one of those people that invests thousands of dollars daily and is like, come along with me and watch me invest. So learn as you will with that. The other one that I would say is Ali Abdaal. He is kind of similar. He's more of a productivity guy, but he has some really good ones on saving and investing and like creating wealth and growing wealth, which is just a good concept to learn from. And he's also a terrific teacher. So I really like him. He reads more than any human being I've ever seen in my life. And so then I started reading partially because of him and a couple other YouTubers I watch. So some books that I thought were really cool are The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That was a really interesting one. It's not just about money. It's just about like the value of compounding, which is cool. And then a book called Wealth Made Easy, which is like 200 pages of one-liners from really, really wealthy people, which is just cool. I should say paragraphs from really wealthy people. So all of their tips and tricks and what they wish they would have done better. So that is by Greg S. Reed and Gary M. Krebs. Good books. I'm still reading a bunch. So honestly, check back with me if you want to find more, because I'm sure I'll read another book by the time you listen to this.
I just wait for Ty to tell me about the books that he reads, and then I get smarter too.
Yeah, I just give you like the highlighted portions. I'm like, check this out. And you're like, cool.
Yeah. And I do agree that like reading up on things, watching YouTube videos, whatever, is all great.
Oh,
I feel like I've found the most value in just having conversations with people, which I feel like is essentially similar to like a YouTube video or something like that.
Sure.
But
I also, if you want just like a good resource, nerdwallet.com, I think.
I've heard of that.
NerdWallet's great. It's how I chose my first credit card. They like compare a bunch of things of like, here's what credit card you should have if you're just starting out, or if have this high of credit, or here's what different types of loans might be good for you. Like they're a good resource for that kind of thing, and like learning about what certain things mean, learning about how to buy a house, or, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. So they're just a good, like more news type article based website. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They're a good website. Look up them. Do it.
Let's give a few tips, just like quick little tips to end on if you need something more tangible to take away.
Yeah.
The first thing, which you kind of just touched on this with like NerdWallet helping you pick out a credit card. Don't be afraid of getting a credit card. I feel like in this day and age, people have very mixed views on credit cards, but Definitely. It all goes back to being the one in control. If you know where your money's coming from, how much money you have to spend, you don't need to be afraid of using a credit card because you know that you'll only use it for what you have money to use it for. And then you'll just be able to build your credit and get cool rewards with cool credit cards.
Yep.
So,
and like for me, I was really scared of credit cards for a long time and I didn't get a credit card until I was 23. And while I haven't dealt with implications because of that really yet, it's possible that I could have. And if I had been trying to buy a car or buy a house or anything big at 23, 24, 25, like it could have been an issue because I had waited so long. Whereas you've had a credit history since you were like 19.
Yeah.
So
18.
Yeah. Like that's great. And you're not trying to build credit because you've had credit. So credit is really important. And I feel like people are wary of credit cards, which you should be cautious with them and be smart with them. But
you don't need to be
scared of them.
Credit cards are really not an enemy. They're actually very beneficial if used well.
Like we flew all the way to Denver and back and it didn't cost us anything.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like pick a credit card, like do your research and pick a credit card that like makes sense for you. Like I got a Southwest card so that I could not have to pay for flights and it's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's great. Like things like that like rewards are helpful and they aren't free money, but you're going to spend money anyways. And so you might as well get something for it. Like we're going to buy groceries anyways. We might as well get some Southwest points for that.
It honestly kind of is free money in that sense because typically you wouldn't just buy groceries and also be earning a flight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's definitely perks to it. And if you use it the right way, pay it off in time, it's really like not even scary for me anyway, or for us, because like when we go to pay off our credit card, it's not nerve-wracking because we know like, oh, we've been keeping an eye on our budget all month, so we've only spent what we had anyway. So we already know that we have all this money to pay our bill.
Yep.
And so big major key.
Yeah, just be smart. Yeah. That's the thing. This one's a big one for me because I think investing is so fun. I think we should start there. I think it's so fun and it's so interesting because I like math stuff and seeing how like compounding things works is crazy. So my like thing I wish I would have done earlier is, along with opening a credit card, is investing. I wish I had started investing earlier. I just wish that I would have started investing earlier. And like we're 25, we're investing now, and that's earlier than people start investing, which is great. But in certain capacities, like if you started investing at 18, then you would be a millionaire by the time you're like 45, which is sick. So there's things like that. I think I hear this quote a lot in the investing sphere of YouTube. I want to say it's Warren Buffett, but I don't really know. But it's like the best time to start investing was 20 years ago. The next best time is tomorrow. It's like,
is today not a good time?
Maybe it is today. Maybe I'm butchering that quote. I think it is today.
The worst time is today.
Yeah.
Second best time is tomorrow. Third best time, 4 months from now. It's just like all over the board.
Yeah, it's just like really convoluted.
Basically, start investing.
But start investing earlier. Like if you have the money to do it. And like, I guess this is a freebie, but like savings, I don't want to say savings is a scam, but like I think people get scared of investing. And they're like, I'm going to just put all my savings in a savings account. And it's like, you actually lose money that way.
Right, because your money won't grow that way.
Whereas, like investing it means your money is growing. So the reason rich people get more rich is because they make their money do things for them and make more money, which is
make their money their bitch.
Honestly, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Same. I'm trying to make money my bitch. I'll say it.
Motto for 2023.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
All right. Should we talk about our life? How's our life?
We could give a good life update. Well, daylight savings just happened.
Yeah, today's day 1 of daylight savings.
So that kind of sucks. It's
well,
literally...
I guess it's of daylight savings ending, technically.
Yeah, so daylight is not being saved. It is being taken from us.
Yeah.
It's 4:22 p.m. right now, and it's like...
The sun definitely set like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's getting dim in here, which is really sad. But on the flip side of that...
On the actual bright side, our Christmas tree is lighting up our room.
Yeah, it's Christmas. We got some decorations. We have a Christmas tree up. It's definitely too big for the space, but we're vibing. Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
We got to get more lights. We definitely underestimated the amount of lights we would need because our tree is half lit right now.
We got 2 strands and almost made it halfway.
I thought it was going to be more than enough.
I did too.
I didn't realize I'm not used to not having a pre-lit Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, it's looking a little rough, but I will say this, the lights and star combo work together great.
Yeah, it looks so pretty.
We put up lights around our windows.
I'm actually probably going to do a roundup of all of our Christmas decor, like on my personal Instagram at some point. Like I'll put together a reel or something and then like link all the stuff that we got because it actually is looking really good together. I'm super excited about it. And we did it on a budget too. And it's looking good because Christmas decor gets so expensive.
Well, because it's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff.
It is one of those things where hopefully for the most part, it's like a one-time expense where you like collect a bunch of stuff. And then once you have it, you can kind of reuse it throughout the years. Obviously, as your style changes or things like wear down, you can get new stuff. But like for us, because it's our first Christmas together, we're having to like get everything all at once, which is a lot. But we've been able to do it pretty frugally, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think like... Obviously, I mean, we're going to have a lot more like holiday related content over the next couple weeks, but I like our holiday setup right now.
I know.
I'm not typically, I'm always a like, no Christmas music until December 1st kind of guy.
We've listened to Christmas music all weekend.
We have, which I don't mind the like soft instrumental YouTube visualizers, you know, those are fun.
Also, Christmas lo-fi is the way to go.
Christmas lo-fi is my shit.
Yeah.
That actually changed Christmas music for me.
Yeah, honestly, same. Because it's like, I do love a classic, All I Want for Christmas Is You. But at the same time...
Who doesn't?
I know. But at the same time, I want to mix it up.
Yeah.
And so in order to like be listening to Christmas music for 2 months straight and not get tired of it, you got to throw in some lo-fi.
Yeah.
And it's a vibe.
Yeah, for sure. We set everything up very quickly this year too.
We did.
Mean, obviously, we're like halfway through the tree, which is going to be the longest part.
The only reason we're halfway through it is because we have to go to the store to get some more stuff. Otherwise, we'd be done with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we started all of this on like Friday night and it's Sunday and it looks great. So
yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's exciting to be getting to decorate for holidays for the first time together. It's like a fun first newlywed things.
Yeah. Big newlywed vibes.
Yeah, we're vibing. But yeah, I guess that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Also, I feel like we've been doing this for like a little bit over a month now. So just a general thanks to the people who have been listening.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. We're having a good time. So
we were talking about it today and we just like making it is really fun for us. And the fact that people want to listen is really cool. And like every week we're seeing a little bit more listens and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. You never expect like a lot of people to listen to.
And it's always just like, there's always the fear of like, nobody's going to care.
Yeah. And the fact that like.
It's still a very real fear, but I think it's something that you have to consistently just push through in order to do what you want to do. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's been fun so far. So
yeah.
If you have been listening and enjoying and you want to be really, really nice and giving this Thanksgiving season.
Nice.
Feel free to go leave us a rating and review on Apple or just a rating on Spotify.
We'd really give some thanks for that.
We would.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was... Oh, hi, Koopy.
Okay.
All right. Koopy's ready for dinner. So on that note, we got to get going before we get a cord chewed through. So.
But go give us a follow on Instagram at WDYM Pod or on TikTok, WDYM Podcast. And thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.